Только что сказали, что можно так сказать.
Yep. Hey, everybody, just had myself muted. Yep, give me like a minute. I'm just checking something here. And then you guys, if you have questions, throw them in, and I'll get to them in about a minute or two. So give me a moment. Okay, so yeah, you guys can if you guys have questions, go ahead and throw them in. And then right around the top of the hour, in about 10 minutes, we'll start the show as usual. But I figured I'd give at least a few minutes here so that people could ask questions if they had one from last week, maybe that didn't get answered. Because how are you doing? I'm doing okay, thanks. I appreciate that. Lots of travel, as I guess you guys know. What's new on funding? Well, there's always news. Off the top of my head, we had an investor here yesterday, one that I've been talking to since I was in Monaco 4 or 5 months ago, actually. 4 months ago, roughly. So came into not yet finalized, but basically get to 80% of the way. Hopefully finalize something in the next week. He also has some contacts that may be looking to diversify into pretty much exactly what we're doing. So we also have 2 or 3 other negotiations that have moved from about, let's say, lukewarm 50% of the way to roughly 70-80% of the way. So progress on many different fronts. On fundraising, nothing inked yet, at least in terms of an actual agreement, but we're getting there. And I definitely see a light at the end of the tunnel here coming. I still think that at the end of June, we're going to see something decent close. And then into July and August, I think we'll see some other rather large tickets close to hopefully put us at the end of this fundraising nonsense, hopefully sometime in the summer months. ADA. I don't, but to be honest, the schedule right now, it's not in the ADA or ADA is not in the running for the next 3 or 4 assets we send to the bank, but it's definitely in that 12, I think, that we shortlisted. So it's coming. Basically, we're trying to have somewhat of a systematic approach here on how we send these things off to the bank based on their feedback from the initial 3, understanding more or less what they're looking for so that we can get maybe 6 to 9 quick approvals, hopefully now. And then hit them with a few that are a little more difficult to analyze, hoping that at that point they're going to trust our judgment a little more, and it'll help us in getting those actually pushed through as well. Investor with liquidity problems still has liquidity problems. I talked to her about a week ago. She's been traveling and is actually doing a bit of pitching for us. So I have a follow-up call with her probably this weekend or early next weekend. We'll see how she is. But yeah, so far still liquidity problems, but she's out there going to bat for us. So at least which is a good thing. So what's the timeline for new listings? Do you already have coins in mind? When do you release the debit card? Timeline for new listings. Basically, we're going to submit probably on Monday another 3. And then hopefully by Wednesday or Friday, another 3. And then once we see those come back from the bank, hopefully we keep that same 4 to, let's say, it was 4 days last time. Once they actually, after weeks and weeks and weeks, they finally told us what they wanted to see. We showed it to them, and it took 4 days. So hopefully we can keep those 4 days. If we do, after we submit the next 2 batches of 3, I would like to send in some type of larger batch, like maybe 10 to 20. So right now the timeline still depends a bit on the bank. We will submit though the next 3 by Monday, I believe. As far as the debit cards, we have MOUs or agreements kind of in place already with more than one provider. The question is just funding. So getting the payments made to these guys so we can get the cards rolling. We will have a big announcement, I think, towards the end of this month, next month, about virtual IBANs and 33 different deposit currencies, which will be a base to launch the debit card. So I expect we're working right now with a provider to get that online. I would hope June, but it might be July. But anyway, moving towards, we'll have custom IBAN accounts. It'll be quite cool. IBAN accounts with XCM is what we're shooting for. So something like GB0 or GB1 XCM. So they'll be quite unique. What's new regarding BizDev? Lots of stuff on the BizDev front, as always. Looking to sign someone else for our KYC module, make a little revenue out of that, a little additional revenue. We have still going over this IEO style, hybrid IEO solution. I think at some point in the very near future, we're going to start to make that public. Let me see where else on the BizDev side. A couple different, talking to a couple different people for the CSD to work out with us on the CSD project, as well as this compliant protocol that will underpin our MTF licensing. Talking to a few people as well. Now, for the MTF license, we need about €1 million for minimum capital, but that minimum million euro pretty much sits in trust, so it's relatively risk-free. So we're looking right now for someone to come on with a convertible equity kind of loan at a very low interest rate. Basically, they're going to put their money in that trust account. They'll have signature on that money. We'll be able then to apply for the license. That money's never at risk. They'll get a little bit of interest. And at some point in the future, if we don't repay that loan within, let's say, 2 years, they will be able to convert that to equity. So we have a few people that we've been talking to about that. And I think we're getting generally closer to making that a reality as well. This is from Fergus, are you planning staking services for coins that can be staked in the future? We've talked about it internally. It's definitely something that interests us. From a regulatory standpoint, we got to be careful. We have to make sure that doesn't cross any boundaries. There's a possibility it may. So we're still looking at it. It's something that legal needs to take a more clear look at. We have a lot of things we need to accomplish before I think we get to that point, because it's more of an auxiliary service. It's more of a way to try to get people to hold tokens, right? Which obviously is good for us for XCM, for example, but it's also good for companies we bring on and list, because it'll induce those holders to hold those tokens. So it makes listing at CoinMetro more, let's say more, it makes a bigger appetite out there. It makes people actually want to do it more so than they would normally. So it's something that we're looking at, but we don't have a timeline on that at all right now. But yes, I think once we get through margin trading, TAM, and margin lending, it'll become more clear on when we can actually fit that into the ecosystem. Yeah, margin lending. I think it's that margin lending thing on Poloniex. I just talked about it on Blocks Live. I'm probably going to talk about it. I'm sure there's a question about it in the question. So I'm going to leave that one for now. If it doesn't come up in the question and answer session, then I'll come back to it. MOU. MOU is a memorandum of understanding. It's a legal term for an agreement that isn't binding. So basically, it's something you sign and say, look, this is what we kind of understand what we're going to do, but this isn't a legally binding agreement. So any party can break it for any reason, but it puts down on paper more or less what you're looking to do. Other legal terms for that same document are a head of terms. Even a statement of work can be considered something like an MOU. But yeah, MOU or a letter of intent, an LOI, all generally the same thing, non-legally binding contracts or agreements. When Lambo from Dare Jigo. I don't know, it depends on, are you buying a used Lambo, a brand new Lambo? How much token do you actually own? You might be in Lambo territory already if you bought at the low when it hit around 1.1, 1.3 cents. That's a 5X right now, I think. So our fund Safu. Look, I'm going to be honest with you because I like to be honest with people. There's no such thing in the financial world as completely safe funds. Because even when they're insured, the insurer can go bankrupt. So what I will say is that we put all the effort we possibly can, because if you lose your funds, we also lose not only reputation, but in this journey that we're in right now, the stage we're in, which is basically, we kind of came up, we were in ICO, and then obviously we've had development times, and now we're just starting to peak upward. It kind of follows the price, to be honest. And as we start to peak upward, these times right now would be the worst time for something like that to happen. So we put a lot of effort into making sure something like that doesn't happen. But don't let anybody ever confuse you to say that funds are 100% guaranteed safe. That's ridiculous, because funds, even when they're in your own wallet, when they're in your bank, when they're in your mattress, whatever you do with your money, it's never 100% safe. Do you already have interest from good traders who want to participate in TAM? Yes, we do, actually. We have a few different algo traders and companies that have been trading algorithms in other markets and have been doing it in crypto for lesser time because the market's not as old, let's say, as more traditional markets. But yes, I think we have a stable of at least 3, 4, 5, maybe upwards of 7 now, different providers that will probably be there close to day one. And some of them are doing quite well. So yes, there's definitely interest. There's actually interest from investors as well when they hear our pitch. A lot of them hone in on that tokenized asset management because they either come from an asset management background, they've been involved in asset management either from the investor side or the asset management side, or they simply like the idea and think that because the asset management business can be so large and diversified that it's just a great way not only to get our name out there, but also to earn some revenue. When we'll be getting the CM API? CM API was always planned, I think, right after margin trading, at least, well, after margin trading, I should say. So I think once margin trading is online, we've been debugging it for quite some time, and the guys that have been working day in and day out, to be honest, from all sections of the company, because a lot of our guys that work in, whether they work in customer support, whether they're in compliance, whether they're in marketing, they've all been kind of helping debug. And we got some great guys out of Telegram as well that have really been putting in time and effort to help us debug. So hats off to those guys. Thank you very much, and the community at large as well. Once this thing gets released, is going to help us. So I think there'll be a minimal amount of bugs that are going to be found, but it will take a week, 2 weeks to go through some bug reports, I'm sure. Once that's done, then I think the API makes sense. Getting fixed API out there then, when we have a bit of leverage to trade on and some more assets, means that we probably will have a little bit of interest from API traders, even from the FX Pig community, to be honest. With all this whale manipulation going on, when margin trading platforms lately, does CM have hurdles to prevent the mad sell-offs to liquidate margin traders? It's not about, there's many things you can do, and some of them are quite simple. First of all, Poloniex was giving margin on a very illiquid asset, something I've never even heard of until today, actually. So there's their first error. Second error is they didn't have enough. They didn't stage orders in the correct way. Let's put it that way. There's different types of order types when you're going to liquidate. Market orders are obviously preferred because you want to get out no matter the price. But there's also ways to push in market orders via either FOK, IOC, AON, different types of order types that can actually pull. Because sometimes what can happen is at top of book, you have a specific amount and you hit that top of book and clear it. Sometimes the way the mechanism works in an order book doesn't let you clear through the book immediately. So the top has to actually refresh. Or sometimes you can clear through the first levels and then people start pulling orders. So you miss that liquidity. So there's ways to mitigate that. And I'm not going to go into complete details on how you do that, but there are ways to do it. Poloniex should be ashamed because they should be covering those losses themselves. Actually, in the EU, in most EU states under MiFID II directive and under ESMA, you have to have negative balance protection, which means that if your clients go into negative territory, you cover it. It is illegal to go after that money. So Poloniex should be ashamed of themselves, to be quite honest. Mistakes happen, but they need to bite. They need to eat that loss, is what I'm trying to say. Could we stake Link for all who hold Link on the exchange, share rewards? It's possible, but that becomes a CIS, I think. And that's it's basically a shared investment. Right? It's a collective investment scheme because basically if you put your tokens and then you share the benefits of everyone holding tokens, you're inside of a collective that benefits off the work or property or holdings of others, which is a CIS, which is a regulated. That's why I said staking can fall into a bit a regulated territory. So we have to see. It's a great idea, but I'm not sure that it's actually possible without the regulation. Yes, API will definitely be on demo for sure. I'm going to get started, guys. It's 2 minutes after the hour, so let's get started on the normal show. Then we'll come back to the AMA once we get through the 10 news topics and Kevin's crypto explanation of the day, or whatever it is. Or Kevin explains crypto. So we'll pretty much say 12, 15 minutes tops. We'll come back and hit the rest of these AMA questions as they roll in. So if you have questions, go ahead and keep pushing them in. I'll make sure I come back and scroll through and answer them in the order that they came in. So let me open up quickly here. Okay, so obviously last week I was traveling in Russia, and I tried to do the AMA, and YouTube told me that mobile streaming wasn't active on our account because I guess we're just not that popular for some reason, which is ridiculous because, I thought I was super popular. So I couldn't do the show last week. So anyway, we're here this week. So I think we have a mix of topics from last week and this week. So if you hear a news story that maybe you thought you heard about 10 days ago, you might have heard it 10 days ago. I'm going to try to spend a minute or less on each of these. There's 10 of them. It's 3:03 here locally. Let's see if we can get through them by 3:13. One on a list of 10, money laundering, 17K fee charged on 1K Litecoin transaction. All right, so we've seen this before with people either purposely adjusting the fee on a transaction in order to move funds, let's say under the radar, not so much under the radar, obviously, or it's a mistake. I tend to think, look, if you're a stupid money launderer, maybe you try to do this. Obviously, things get picked up rather easily, so it doesn't really work out. I tend to think it's probably a mistake. I could be wrong. If somebody's trying to launder money through a fee schedule, it doesn't really make any sense because in effect, fees paid would still run the risk of signaling some type of tax authority at some point. Not to mention that it gets picked up in the news, right? So we'll see. We'll see if there's anybody that maybe carries out a bit of an investigation here and tries to figure out more or less what happened. I tend to think it's probably an error and not money laundering, but we'll see. Number 2 on the list of 10, Cryptopia turns to a U.S. court for account holder data protection. So let's see. So I haven't read this one, and I'm just going to open it up here because I want to make sure that I don't just misjudge the title and assume what it says. So they filed for bankruptcy protection in the U.S. Okay, great. Those guys were New Zealand based, if anybody forgot. They got hacked and then basically went out of business. Okay, so they have servers in Arizona. So they basically went under bankruptcy protection to protect those assets so they're not seized and at the same time, I guess, protect some of their client data. But more than likely, it's to protect probably IP or something else that may sit on those servers. So yeah, makes sense. Looks like they consulted a lawyer, which is good when you run into issues. Usually you need a lawyer. So whatever lawyer told them to file for bankruptcy to protect those assets, made a decent move. Number 3 on the list of 10, Binance Coin BNB has at least 83 use cases, exchange claims. Yeah, great. What I would say here, everybody here knows I love Binance. Binance, aside from the fact of every other risk they run from regulators and governments and every single known policy with 3 or 4 letters in it that exists in the world, they're breaking another one here, which is when you have a token that operates on one single platform, regardless of what you allow that token to do, whether you can make payments or exchange between users, etc. It's a closed system. You're not required to have EMI licensing here in the EU. That's electronic money licensing. However, as soon as you allow that token or that asset to be spent on other platforms, and as a use case, you're giving the people the ability to move funds off the platform and spend them or exchange them for goods or services elsewhere, you need an e-money license. So this is just another nice checkbox that Binance is making in front of regulators that, hey, here's another thing we're doing in your face that's illegal. Come get us. So you can see that Binance moved to restrict IP addresses in the US, and that maybe there's going to be a topic about that. I don't know. But I guarantee you they got some heat on them, and this is not going to help them get any less. Let's put it that way. Huobi, number 4, clamps down on crypto wash trading after Bitwise report. Good on Huobi. I know some of the guys in Huobi UK, good guys. I know they generally try to make sure that their data is legitimate. They definitely do things that other exchanges don't. I'm glad to hear this. I didn't read into exactly, and we only have a minute each question, so we're right on track right now. So I'm not going to read into it. I'll read into my leisure time later to find out exactly what they're doing. But there are steps that traditional markets have taken for years and decades that pretty much mitigates 90 to 99% of wash trading. So, these guys should be able to do the same things, just like we're doing on our own exchange to mitigate those things to show real volume. And I think they should be doing the same thing. So good on them. Number 5 on the list of 10, first bank-owned crypto exchange brings Bitcoin, Ripple, and Ethereum to institutional investors with deep pockets. Great. I wonder if they're buying. Probably not. I know everybody's under this myth that everybody loves this myth that there's all this institutional money in crypto. There's not. I've been saying that for a long time. There still isn't. There's definitely more institutional plays going on the business development side and on the creation side. They want to get a foothold here. There's definitely institutions, Grayscale, some other hedge funds, et cetera, that have put money. A lot of that money, though, is coming from other institutions that are pooling money from retail investors. So at the end of the day, real institutional money, and I mean real big player money, we're not seeing a lot of it yet. I think all these guys get involved in the crypto exchange business. You talk about SBI Holdings. These guys own brokers and market makers in many different markets, and I think they're kind of just getting their feet wet to eventually probably merge their crypto trading with some other venture. And to be honest, I hate to say this, but I think it was worrying a year or so ago because these companies weren't coming out and getting industry leaders to help them, to advise them on what they should do in crypto. And I think they're doing that now, which is great, but I think they're getting the wrong advice. I think these companies like SBI should simply be incorporating crypto into platforms they already have that have millions and millions and millions of users and push it out immediately via traditional means on their existing platforms. No reason to recreate the wheel here, guys. It's not going to help us move adoption quicker. It's probably going to slow it down. Number 6 on a list of 10, local Bitcoins quietly removes BTC for cash option. Yeah, well, again, a lot of people got scary letters. I'm telling you, this is the scary letter campaign, probably from CFTC, SEC, maybe even different states in the U.S. for MSB licenses has probably started. I'm sure Binance has received one or a few of those. I'm sure local Bitcoins did as well. Local Bitcoins made the step forward and the mistake to get licensed in Finland under the same typical kind of licensing we have here, which is under AMLD 5, Anti-Money Laundering 5, the directive that basically puts KYC and AML into crypto. But when they did that, they put themselves under the radar. And I'm sure they probably either got heat from Finland themselves or they got heat from the US. The weird thing is they banned cash everywhere. There are regions of the world where they operate. Africa, for example, cash is fine. Nothing in Africa tells you can't use cash, but they're now registered in Finland. Finland says they can't use cash. So they actually made a mistake, to be honest. They had a good thing going for them. They should have found ways to regulate themselves regionally, and then they wouldn't have had to done this. So bad move by local Bitcoin. Number 7 on the list of 10, crypto pioneer Justin Sun pays $4.57 million for lunch with Warren Buffett. I'm glad, Justin Sun has some money to throw away. A little bit of publicity, I guess. Maybe it's worth $4.57 million. I don't know. Lunch with the man. I don't know if it's worth $4. The guy's pretty open. He's got a lot of books. He speaks publicly a lot. You can pretty much hone any information you want to get from him. I don't think he's going to change his mind on crypto in one sitting. I don't think, Justin's probably the guy to do it. Warren's an old guy. He's an old, white-haired white dude. And he probably won't, I hate to say this, but the world is biased. And, if Warren Buffett was sitting down in a mirror and another Warren Buffett was telling him crypto was a good idea, maybe he listens a bit more. But I think it's cool that they got some publicity, and I wish Justin the best. Hopefully he brings a nice team with him that'll push him weight at Warren and maybe make him maybe at least start investigating to change his mind. Number 8 on a list of 10, Gartner says 90% of blockchain projects will need replacing in 18 months. Replacing, I don't know if that's 100% true. We're going to see a lot of churn in blockchain, that's for sure. All the industry leaders right now might not be industry leaders in 18 months. That could definitely happen, especially when you talk about platforms, dApps, and things like that, where the technology is rapidly changing. Bitcoin will remain the liquidity, king. Whether that doesn't mean it's going to hold 50 or 60% of liquidity ongoing. Even when it holds 10%, guys, that means the rest of the market's going to share 90. There's probably going to be 20,000 different players in the market. So Bitcoin's still going to be number 1 by leaps and bounds when it comes to liquidity. So he's probably right. Replacing, I don't know if that's the right word. They'll probably die if that's what you mean by replacing. But we're going to see a lot of churn. That happens in every industry. It's not just crypto. It shouldn't dismay anybody from getting in here. Every industry sees churn when it's maturing. Number 9 on the list of 10, SEC sues messaging app Kick for $100 million. Yeah, well, this is a slam dunk for the SEC. If you read the complaint, I read the complaint, slam dunk. When it comes to U.S. law, even if I was selling wallets, right, tiny little wallets, and I put the wallets online, and I said, buy these wallets. They're guaranteed to go up in value. We're going to do everything we can to limit supply to make sure these go up in value. You will make money on these wallets. I'm offering it as a security. So under the SEC's rules and guidelines and legislation that they have to enforce, it's a security. So regardless how they structured it, the fact that there's internal emails and tweets and all this other nonsense, it's over with. They lose this case 100%. It's a civil case, but expect criminal charges to follow depending on how the civil case wraps up. And that civil case, that judge at the end of the day that makes that civil case gavel, throw, he's going to set some precedent. And don't expect this to be the last civil case. And definitely it will lead to criminal prosecutions. Number 10 on a list of 10, Bitpanda goes global, announcing the Bitpanda Global Exchange and the IEO for the ecosystem token BEST. So yeah, look, every platform, if they do things correctly, will go regional first, and then eventually try to go to different regions and eventually go global. It's been our strategy. It will continue to be our strategy. And it's Bitpanda's strategy. Good. That means they're doing the right things. So hats off to Bitpanda. But they still going global right now. I think they established, if I'm not mistaken, in Asia first. Maybe I'm wrong. Australia. I don't remember. And now they're moving in. Now they're saying they're worldwide, which I guess is a bit of a misnomer. But hey, marketing is what marketing is. IEO. Look, I'm going to say this again. IEOs are doomed to fail. They place a lot of risk on the exchange. I hope Bitpanda does it a bit differently. We'll see what they do. I know we are going to do our little version of fundraising on our platform differently, and we're going to do it with a very heavy focus on protecting contributors' money. And I think if they do something like along those lines, then maybe they're going to see some success. Okay, guys, I want to jump into Kevin Explains Crypto here. It's just a little segment we like to do where I take some crypto term or phrase and just give a little layman definition, explain what it means to people out there that may not know what it means. So this week's Kevin Explains Crypto is self-executing contract. So smart contracts can be self-executing contracts. Not all smart contracts are self-executing, but all self-executing contracts under that definition would be a smart contract. Simply means that if this happens in a contract, then that happens. So if something happens, then automatically that contract is going to self-execute some type of action based on whatever happened previously. That's all it means. It's basically like if you sign a paper agreement that says, once 10,000 units are sold, there's an immediate dividend of 2%, something like that. Obviously, those type of things would have to be manually done. Somebody would have to see that 10,000 widgets were sold, etc. Well, here this is like saying once 10,000 tokens have been, let's say, exchanged via whatever means or passed from one wallet to the other, let's say, there's an immediate 2% or 2% reduction or 2% burn, whatever the case is. But as soon as that happens, then the action happens, and it happens by itself. It's self-executing. So that's it. There's a few platforms that are working on more complex self-executing contracts. Ethereum's definitely got something in the works as well. And there's other platforms out there that are doing the same thing. So, all right, guys, I'm going to jump back into some of these. Let me see. We have some Reddit questions. Just gonna... All right, we actually have a good amount of Reddit questions this week. So I'm going to put the first one up here. Let me see what we have on the YouTube. Okay, so we talked about the staking. Well, the API will be available on demo. We talked about that. Fergus asked, and just testing, is tagging working at CoinMetro when this AMA goes mental in the future? Yes, it works. I can see CoinMetro tagged in orange, so I think it is working. Krispy Kreme, what's it like being a boomer? I don't know if that was to me. I'm definitely not a baby boomer. I think I'm 2 decades outside of being a baby boomer. But do you have any plans for bringing in more liquidity for the new pairs, Bjorn? Yes, there are plans. The fact is, though, that market making in crypto is still the super wild west, and most market makers suck, period. There are a few market makers that know what they're doing. Those guys generally tend to focus on majors, though, because, well, they know what they're doing. As market caps get higher, then you start to see some more serious market makers taking a look. So, yes, we are looking at possibilities. Right now, we're in the talk phase to then go into the test phase. So we'll see how it plays out over the next coming weeks. Obviously, one of the easiest ways to get liquidity is to bring on more people that trade these assets. If I wanted to buy some equity in CM, what benefits does this give me over token holders? Well, if you buy equity, that means you own a piece of the company. You don't just own a token, which is essentially a speculative instrument that has some utility behind it. Now, it is a utility token, but obviously, we have to be honest with each other. All tokens have some type of speculative interest behind them. We don't necessarily try to drive that speculative interest, but the market will create a speculative market around basically anything. But it has utility, meaning it allows you access to the platform. It gives you the ability to pay fees. It allows you access to promotions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it doesn't give you a stake in the company. You don't own the company. Owning the company means that you get access to dividends in the future. And as the company's valuation rises, even if the token price doesn't rise at the same rate, your share value will rise. So for instance, right now we've been raising a €5 million round. We're already planning to raise €50 million towards the end of 2020. That means in roughly 1 year to 18 months, in that round, your share would automatically be valued at 10 times what it's valued at today. So there's definitely a difference between being an equity holder and being a token holder. We also have the ability to have revenue share with equity holders. So equity holders that sponsor specific products, so the TAM or the ETCF or debit card, whatever. If they sponsor a specific product, not only do they get the equity, but they also can get a top line revenue share. So you get immediate cash once that product goes live. So definitely major differences. You said you would use your own money to kickstart marketing. When is that plan to start? Just waiting for a liquidity to come my way. So that should have happened. Well, part of it should have happened already. Unfortunately, it's a bit delayed. It happens a lot in this world, unfortunately. But I do expect before the end of June to have that liquidity in hand, and I will start to kickstart some marketing. What kind of money are you going to spend on marketing this year, assuming you get all the required funding? If we get all the required funding, we're talking upwards of about 800K to $1 million. And then depending on how revenue rolls in, that will increase. So 800K, I think 700 or 800K was the budget based on completing the fundraising round. New website. So we've actively started working on the new website. I've seen now version 6 of different mock-ups. I think we're a few versions away from them moving into actually putting it into production. I don't have a timeline right now for you guys. I'll follow up on Telegram. Somebody please tag me with that question, and I'll follow up there. Why do you still not show circulating supply? Not show it where? It's definitely shown on our, well, what's just shown on our transparency page, the amount of tokens that were sold. You can also see it on Etherscan. It's slightly higher on Etherscan because we still are doing running some numbers to make sure that number is accurate. It's about roughly 2 million off of the actual figure. Those will be burned once we get the actual figure. You can also go on Blockfolio. I think you can see the supply as well, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe you can't. Actually, I don't know on Blockfolio. Anyway, you can go on Etherscan and see that. You can also go on our website. So I'm not sure where else you want to see it. Any new additions to the meme wall lately? No, I haven't had time to focus on the meme wall, unfortunately. Not really focus on it, but these things were all done in my free time, like over a week, a couple weekends here or there. To be honest, my weekends haven't been free either. So now, no time to work on the meme wall, but hopefully we'll get there again. The trade page of CoinMetro doesn't list the order book without logging in. This affects new user signups. It is a priority, but to be honest, it's not a priority over getting margin trading out, for example, because that's definitely a major release, but it is a priority. Included with the new website is the ability to see the order book and see the exchange and the Go dashboard without actually needing to sign in. So that's all part of the new website that we're working on. Hey, David, I like the sarcasm in your question. Have I not seen that? Like I'm sitting here all day on the computer and I don't do anything but browse around, CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko. So yeah, I have seen it. I'm just saying off the top of my head, but yes, then you're right. It doesn't show it. It doesn't show it because in order to mitigate supposed fake data, they want you to have different vaults where you have things that are held for clients, things that are held for shareholders, tokens that are held, et cetera, for other means, for advisors, whatever the case may be. And we haven't done that yet. So that's why they don't show the circulating supply. But the circulating supply, you can see it on Etherscan. 330 million is the current supply. Circulating supply, you have to do a bit of math. And it will be shown on the website. It will be up on our transparency page. We simply haven't focused on finishing up that widget, mainly because we've been all hands on deck have been focusing on margin trading. So it will be done. It's something on the list. We will get it live. That transparency page will become very active with different stats and data, not just circulating supply, many other pieces of data to help people get a more clear insight into what we're doing and what the business looks like. All right, as we wait for new questions to come in, I'm going to jump on Reddit here. So Johnny Dixon asks, hi, Kevin, in reference to the last video, you say you applied for the banks to list link 9 weeks ago and you put it on the short list 4 to 6 weeks before that. Mr. Johnny Dixon, before you mention And my friend, you're not the man who put the thought in our heads. Actually, this is wrong. I posted the below thread on the 22nd of January, 18 weeks ago. You were defensive and unable to give credit to the community where it's due. Jesus, you know, if we want to trace back, okay, you want the credit, you can have the credit. That's fine. I didn't mean to not give someone credit. I give credit all day long. I don't need to take the credit for anything. In fact, I wish everybody did everything and all I had to do was sit here and do an AMA every week. I would just throw credit out all over the place. It would be great. So you can have the credit, that's fine. But understand, that's like saying, you know, if Boeing, you know, if the Wright brothers invented the airplane and somebody said, well, I drew on a cave wall 4,000 years ago what looks like an airplane, so I should get credit for the airplane because, you know, I drew it on a cave wall, bro. Like I knew it was happening before they did. I mean, a lot of people I'm sure mentioned Link. I don't know if you were the first. Maybe you were. I don't know. I have no idea. But we picked it, to be honest, because when we did our own internal thing, we went and looked to see very specific things. No EU on-ramp, no Euro on-ramps, or less than €1 or 1 or 0 Euro on-ramps, the size of the community. The fact that we could actually classify the thing as utility and not security, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Link happened to be one that fit the bill. So thank you, Johnny Dixon, for letting us know about Link. Appreciate it. Will XCM be able leapfrog BTC? No, probably not. Mainly because XCM will never be as, let's say, have as much use outside of our platform than Bitcoin does. We don't plan on opening up gateways for, you know, we're not going to be BNB where we're going to be, you know, throwing XCM all over the place just to see where it sticks. It's a utility token with utility aspects on our platform, and we will continually build out those utility aspects to make the coin more valuable to those who buy it. For it to overtake what is the liquidity leader in this industry is just ridiculous to think. So no, probably not. But will it continue to hold and possibly gain value over time based on its utility aspect and the fact that people will want to buy it to gain access to promotions, to discounts, to the platform itself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? That's a safe bet, I think. New use cases will come as we launch new products because that's really where the use case needs to be tied. I don't want to make artificial use cases, meaning like, oh, here's a use case. You know, I don't know. You can take XCM and, I don't know, put it in this nice little shiny box, yay, or whatever. You know, I think that's ridiculous. So as we produce new services, we will tie in those services with utility aspects of XCM. What will be the highest leverage available? At the beginning, 3 to 1. Once we see how that goes, we see how we can deal with the credit risk. Then we'll look to put that to 4 to 1, 5 to 1. My goal is to get somewhere around 10 to 1. That will take some time though. That could take months, could take over a year. I don't know. It depends on how many people use the system, how much we can mitigate that credit risk, how well our internal systems work to mitigate that credit risk. And I'm not going to just go 10 to 1 or 5 to 1 or 8 to 1 right away and put not only your money at risk, but mine. So it's going to be a gradual process, but we will start at 3 to 1. Another question from Reddit. I know exchange fees aren't CoinMetro's only source of income, but do you have an estimate daily exchange volume that would generate enough revenue for break even? Yeah, roughly 2.5 to 3 million euro would put us at break even for just exchange traded fees, basically. Crisp808 asking on Reddit, hi Kevin, can you explain in layman's terms what the changes to the 3 interfaces will be? I hear you are getting rid of the trade interface to replace it with margin trading. Will you then blend the intermediate and trade interfaces into one, or just rely on intermediate advanced from now on? When margin trading goes live, what kind of loan terms are going to be available? Trade will become the margin platform, but it'll still have all aspects of the trade platform plus some additional aspects, and it got cleaned up a bit. We've added some features, et cetera, et cetera. It just becomes a more complex trade platform. Intermediate will get a makeover at some point, but it'll remain intermediate. We want to have those 3 platforms, simplex, intermediate, and trade. I think it makes sense. As we start to grow the client base, we'll understand whether we should keep those 3 or whether we should start to focus on 1, 2, or possibly merge all of them into one platform with some type of drop down, something like that, so you can, you know, kind of take away features or add them. So we'll see how it progresses. But I think having the ability right now to do almost like an ABC test for every client that comes in and see really where we get the most traction. Makes a lot of sense as we grow. Margin lending goes live. What kind of loan terms? So loan terms can be daily, actually. So you can customize your loan term as you see fit. So it really depends. So you'll see when it rolls out though, and it's coming soon. So I think the 12th right now is the date. Was the 9th? Unfortunately, that's a weekend. Then we thought, okay, 10th, but 10th is a local holiday here, which means some of our sports staff will be a little smaller than it usually is, so not the best day to launch. The 11th, our CTO is traveling. The 12th is the day. XCM is a token or a blockchain? Sorry, I'm confused between token. It's a token. It's an Ethereum-based token. It's an ERC20 token built on the Ethereum blockchain. Violet Mouse, is merch store still on roadmap? Can we use XCM? Yes, it is on the roadmap. Not really a fixed date yet. It's going to be one of the latter things that we do, because the more people we have in the community, the more people we have using the platform, the better that's actually going to work out. And yes, you'll be able to use XCM to buy merchandise. John K, could XCM switch from ERC20 to another blockchain in the future, or even make your own blockchain? Yes, both of those are possible, and both of those will probably happen. Making your own blockchain makes a lot of sense once you have enough services and use cases of that token to where it actually saves you money. It can save you money on fees. It can also, which can be a big one. It can also reduce latency for moving those tokens back and forth, and it can provide additional use cases to the tokens. So yes, both of those are possible actually. And there's actually could even be a split where we use multiple blockchains. So you can hold different tokens on different blockchains, depending on, or mosaics or whatever, tokens or whatever the terminology is used in that blockchain. Bjorn, the mobile app needs major work though. It is being worked. It's constantly being worked on. But again, we have a small staff right now, so we focus everything we can on getting these things to the next level. And yes, mobile needs some work. That's for sure. It is being worked on. It's constantly actually being worked on. But we need to do that thing in stages. If we do too many updates at once, Apple may not even allow us to publish the app. It's pretty difficult with Apple with crypto apps. So you have to do these things in stages. But you're right, it needs work. It is definitely a focus, but it's you have to pick and choose your battles here. So I think margin trading, once that goes live, we'll be able to pick and choose the next major battle. Mobile is definitely on the list. Shuffy's JX on Reddit. Hi Kevin, great man, big fan. The future's bright. 2 questions that boggles me. Where do you see the XCM token CoinMetro change after 2 or 3 years when there's no more Bitcoin left to mine? Well, there'll be Bitcoin to mine till I think it's 2,150, something like that. So, would you think this event mentioned above will disrupt or halt services? So there's a lot more time before Bitcoin can't be mined anymore. It's literally more than 100 years, I think. So that's not really on the cards yet. The Bitcoin will have, the reward will have 12.5, 6.25, 3.1255, etc. But it's not going. Mining is not going to stop. Having said that, mining will still have to continue even when it stops, because that's how transaction fees become then why people mine. So mining will change a bit. But anyway, Bitcoin is not the only game in town. It's going to take a few years, that's for sure, for the market to mature enough where Bitcoin starts to lose some of its dominance. That will happen. Once we get the real end game here, guys, for all of this is the tokenization of assets. That could be hard assets, soft assets, derivatives, bonds, equities, etc. The bond market in the US alone is a $100 trillion market, and that's estimated. It's probably larger. So that's where we're headed. It allows us to do cross-border instantaneous transactions in all known financial markets. That's huge. At that point, Bitcoin becomes much less meaningful for the market as a whole. For the original crypto market, it'll still be the liquidity leader. But for the tokenized market, it'll almost be meaningless. It'll kind of become, not meaningless, I hate to say that, but it's kind of like, would be the tradability of, let's say, gold versus the bond market, not even close. Bjorn also asking on YouTube, when is XCM going to start being used for fees? So our CTO, we've had this battle back and forth a bit, deciding when to do this. It takes a bit of work. And to be honest, right now with the fees that we're generating, we're going to be burning, I don't know, something like €100 a month, €200 a month, something like that max. So it's a relatively small amount. and it would cost us significantly more in development costs to get it done, even if it only takes 3 or 4 days. You're talking about 10 times what we'll burn in order to get it done. So he wants to wait for a specific volume to be reached. I think we'll come to an agreement here. I think once margin trading gets in, after a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks, we'll have this conversation again. And I'm pushing to get it done sooner rather than later. We'll see him go into mining business. No, never. The mining business, to be honest, is not a great business unless you're in it already. You have substantial amount of money to invest. You own a power plant or some other way to generate massive amounts of electricity for cheap rates, and you probably are in bed with the government so that you get some type of subsidies and that you don't generally get shut down. And you have to have massive amounts of capital reserves to be able to upgrade your tech probably every 3, 6 to 12 months, because basically it becomes useless and you need to upgrade it because the hash rate continues to go higher and higher. I am Sujal on Reddit. Can you disclose how much is spent on IT resources such as payment gateways, cloud hosting, and similar expenses? I could, sure, off the top of my head, because these are I don't read these beforehand, guys. So it's not like I come prepared for this. So if we talk about all our IT resources, we probably spend $25K a month. And that's between servers, chain analysis, things like Dow Jones, things like cloud hosting, gateways, stuff like that. We talk about gateways, we talk about percentages. It can obviously be more than that, but somewhere in that ballpark. Furthermore, in what proportions will these grow when the exchange hits volumes of millions of euros per day? Is CM designed to handle such pressure, monetarily and software-wise? Yeah, look, I mentioned this in a couple of days ago. Well, maybe the last day of May, I think, 2 weeks ago, I guess. That we've built the infrastructure, basically, and that's including all the infrastructure, to at any one point right now be 3 to 5, that it can grow 3 to 5 times its size, and we don't see an issue. And we will eventually, once we have more capital, grow that so that it's, let's say, 7 to 10 times, and then eventually 10 to 25 times, so that you always have an elastic infrastructure, so that if you grow unexpectedly 10 to 25 times your size, you can still maintain that growth, and then you scale up. But you scale up while you have time to scale up, rather than scaling up because you absolutely have to, because you're no longer able to support your services. So we're trying to follow that. That's one of our operating procedures. We've been following it up to this point. That doesn't mean you can't have issues. All technical providers online, anything technical, will always have some type of issue. Whether you're eBay, Google, whatever, Facebook, you're going to run into issues sometimes. So that also, means you need to have a flexible team. You need to work. You need to be able to work together. You need to understand how your infrastructure works. But the point is to make things that are able to basically expand with usage, and make sure that you already have that expansion there, and all that elasticity that allows you to grow quickly on demand. Jet fuel, end of year, what kind of usage numbers do you expect on the platform? Well, from the time that we launched till now, fully launched, that was like February. So in March, April, May, into June now, so a little over 3 months, we've seen about a 30x increase in average daily volumes. If we take on a weekly average, on a monthly average, we're probably sitting right now at about a 15x, 15x, something like that. I would expect that to continue. So we'll see. I don't know if it's going to continue exponentially every month. It also really depends on how the whole market looks. It depends on how our release schedule looks. Depends on how fundraising goes. Lots of ifs in there, but I do expect growth to continue. I do think that if, depending on funding that comes in and the amount of marketing budget that we can push forward, I think it's possible by the end of the year we could be very close to self-sustaining ourselves, meaning that we're close to that volume figure I mentioned earlier. That relies a lot on fundraising. Without fundraising, I think we can get a quarter of the way there. I think we can see somewhere in the range of, let's say, on the low end, maybe 300,000, to the high end, maybe upwards of 500,000-600,000 a day in volume, without any major marketing spends, just based on organic growth. Hello, I'm from Russia. Nice to meet you. Margin trading is more popular than mining, but I thought mining can earn much more money than trading crypto. As I said, mining is super capital intensive. It's already controlled by some giants. A company that's undercapitalized to move into mining right now, I think, is a mistake. And look, miners need to sell their crypto. They need to exchange their crypto. There will always be a need for exchanges, even when there's no need for well, not as much need for mining. There will always be a need for exchanges. And look, I come from, regulated FX. I come from the FX industry. I know this business. I don't know mining as well as I know this business. So I like to focus on things that I know, because, well, that's how generally you see better, you see more success in your life, is that when you actually know what you're doing. Unfortunately, sometimes you can get lucky, right? But to me, mining is it's just not a good business. It's not a good business model. It's very hard to calculate future gains. The amount is very capital intensive. You need to constantly be changing your infrastructure, your software, your hardware mostly. And you really need to find a place that can provide you with enough capacity as far as power goes. And you need to get that for substantially low rates, which requires usually some type of agreements. You need to own power plants. And again, so when you're not inside that, when you don't own those things already, when you're not already in the game, very hard to break in, I think. You think privacy coins have a future, or will we ban from exchanges? We'll see them ever list a privacy coin. Right now, there's no way we list a privacy coin because of regulations in the EU and our banking partners. I don't think privacy coins have a big future in regulated exchanges, because at the end of the day, regulators, the reasons why they love blockchain are exactly the reasons they hate privacy coins. So privacy coins are like cash, so that doesn't mean they'll stop existing. If there is a privacy coin that garners enough attention, people use it enough, it's going to be pretty hard to stop. But it's going to be difficult for normal people to cash in and cash out, because all the regulated exchanges, which will become the biggest in the industry over the years, won't accept them. So I think they can exist, but I think it's going to be relatively difficult for them to gain real mainstream adoption as regulations start to get more persistent in this market. Danny Lambo, instead of developing the burn engine right now, can you, in the meantime, record on a ledger the amounts that should burn every day, and when the development is completed, you burn the ledger coins? We could do that. Again, right now it's going to be relatively small amounts of volumes. So I think what might even be better is just that maybe we set a goal for ourselves. That goal could be we reach a certain amount of volume, and when we reach that volume, we just burn an arbitrary amount of tokens. We'll burn X% of what we have on our balance sheet or whatever. I think that makes a bit more sense, because right now the formulas that we devised, we'd be burning a very, very small amount of tokens. So it wouldn't have a major effect on the market per se. So, but it's a good idea. I'll bring that up. I'll bring that up in a conversation with my guys and see what we think. But it's an option, I guess. What are your thoughts on Facebook Global Coin? Well, those guys are positioned almost perfectly to create a transferable kind of like remittance asset between, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. I mentioned this before, guys. I think one of the first AMAs, definitely many AMAs, but probably one of the first, that Facebook, Google, Apple, all these guys were going to do this. It just makes sense. And for a platform that owns so many users, if you think that, obviously the 2 billion or whatever users, I know my ex-wife has like 19 Facebook accounts. I know people that have like 6 or 7. So obviously there's not 2 billion people on there, but there's a significant amount. It's one of the largest countries in the world when you tally up the amount of people that use these services. So remittance is a huge business, guys. And when you can basically bring the cost down to nothing, who wouldn't do it? It'd be ridiculous not to do it. So I think it'll change. It's definitely going to give Ripple and things like that a run for their money, because they can do it almost completely outside the banking system. And Ripple had to rely on banks to get them where they are today. So it's going to make a dent. I don't think it really has an effect on Bitcoin per se. Bitcoin has a whole different kind of moniker behind it. It's not really about transferring a few pennies between your friends or buying things online, to be honest. And I think it's the liquidity holder, which means it's used for settlements, but institutional type settlement. And it's also where everybody runs to when they're running in and out of these micro cap markets. And that's not going to change with the global coin from Facebook. But Facebook's going to give a lot of guys a run for the money. Western Union, MoneyGram, all these type of businesses. What if banks step into crypto exchange business? They definitely will, 100%. So nothing really to say there. Banks will come in. They will do what they do in every market. They will white label a lot of technology. They will buy out a lot of technology because they don't want to create it themselves. When they do that, they will offer probably some lower prices to some of their clients, but they're banks at the end of the day. We all know what happens with banks. They always end up screwing the client somewhere. The service usually sucks. They usually don't offer the same amount, a suite of services that smaller, more boutique brokerages and exchanges can offer. So the exchange model will still exist. There still will be players like CoinMetro that has a diversified revenue stream that basically targets all different types of market segments that banks cannot target or won't target because it's either too high risk or they just don't it's simply not within their purview. So it's definitely going to happen. And it's going to change the market, that's for sure. But it's going to change the market for the better for most consumers. It's going to lower prices, and it's going to bring more liquidity, which is going to help all the players that have that compliant base that have been working on actually establishing a firm footing in the market, like us. What are your thoughts on Facebook Globecoin? Yeah, just answer that one. Okay. When fiat outside of Europe? We're working on getting virtual IBANs with 32, 33 different currencies. Hopefully end of June, maybe into July. We're working with the provider right now to get this thing going. So very, very, very soon. You're talking about your own virtual IBAN that you will have linked to your own name, where you'll be able to send funds in 32 to 33 different currencies, including USD, probably not at launch, but right after, pounds, Australian dollars, Singapore dollars, Japanese yen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Any news on coin dust? Not yet. It's definitely something that we want to implement. I think lots of people talk about it. I think it's a cool feature. We want to make it a little cooler than just the dust button. So we've been debating how we do that, but it's coming. It's coming. It's in the plan. Banks dip in the crypto exchange business and it won't affect CM. I just answered the question. I think I covered that in the question. Will it affect us? Yes, positively and negatively. Positively on the fact it brings liquidity. Also positive on the fact they won't be able to offer everything we offer because banks simply never go outside of their purview. They always pinpoint what they want to offer. So plus we'll be in certain regions where banks may not be able to penetrate so easily. So it positively affects us. And yeah, of course, there's competition. So it may cause us to have to charge a bit less. It may cause us to have to be a bit more agile on the way we do things. But that's how you make a progressive and mature market. So I welcome them to come in. I welcome the day they come in because that means that the regulation is in place now. It's firm. It means that a lot of the unregulated competition is probably gone, merged, or bought out. And that's only good for the market on a whole. Linkcoin just went live yesterday. If it is only listed on CM, but on the price chart, where were prices a few days ago? How is that possible? We basically take indicative pricing from another source so that we can provide right now this range where we only allow limit orders so we can fill up our own book, and then eventually we use our own internal pricing. But pricing outside of that was basically pulled in from an external source. Do you think there's too much crypto crap on social media? Yeah, there's too much crap on social media, period, whether it's crypto or non-crypto. Social media is full of crap, but that's generally because humans are full of crap. So when we have a place that we can spout our crap, we spout it, hence YouTube, hence Facebook, hence LinkedIn, unfortunately. So yeah, there's a lot of crypto crap, but there's a lot of other crap too. So you kind of got to wade through the crap to get to the good stuff, but that's how life is, to be honest. That's life in general. Yeah. It's kind of like you're in a little boat in a river full of shit, and you got to kind of wade through that shit to get to the, the good stuff. So. Oh, well, people are learning from the wrong sources. I'm worried people are going broke. Yep, people always learn from the wrong sources. I'll give you a little how that works sometimes. So I've been in the car with people, unnamed people, that will have a car issue, right? And we'll ask the guy at the gas station what he thinks they should do, as if the guy at the gas station, because he puts gas in cars, somehow is an expert mechanic. And whatever he says, the guy could say, put some water in your headlights. And I guarantee you, some people will go and try to put water in the headlights to fix, a spark plug issue. It's the same thing. People need, people want advice about a doctor, and they ask a friend. People generally take advice from the wrong sources all the time. But you're right. I talk about this all the time. There's a soapbox that people speak from in crypto. The wrong people are not speaking on it. So we really need to come together as an industry and find the right people. And I think we're slowly getting there. We're slowly getting to the point where that soapbox becomes infiltrated with actual people that have good things to say. It's taking a bit of time. It's going to take a bit more time, but we'll eventually get there. Everybody, though, you have to take responsibility for your own actions. If you listen to somebody without doing any research, it's kind of your fault, though, too. So just make sure you do your research. Talk to more than one person. talk to somebody that may actually know what they're talking about and make a decision based on hopefully fact and not just one person's opinion. Can you move their prices from the green and candle ones? It's very confusing when placing a limit order. Can you remove the prices from the green and red buttons? I guess we could, Danny Lambo, but I don't see how that makes it confusing. On any other platform outside of crypto, I've never seen a green and red button that doesn't have prices showing. So if you could explain to me a bit more why it's confusing, maybe then we can talk about it. But I haven't heard anybody else say that, to be honest. If we only had a crypto academy somewhere, yeah, you know, I've been saying that now for a few weeks. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. But priorities, you know, if anybody wants to throw some money our way for some equity, then, you know, and sponsor the crypto academy, then we'll get that sucker up right away. Chris, the person asked the question about the marketing budget in terms of that we raise the capital. If we don't raise the capital, then the marketing budget is basically my funds, and I'll throw a specific amount of money there, somewhere between 5 and 6 figures at marketing to get it going at some point here in the near future. And then as we bring in money, a certain percentage will be pushed toward marketing, probably roughly, depending on the amount of money, between 5 and 25%, and possibly even a bit more. If crypto becomes fully regulated, then won't it affect Binance as big companies like Facebook can buy over it? It will definitely affect Binance because Binance operates in a completely unregulated market. So it's bad news for Binance, 100%. For companies that act within regulation, it is not bad news. And Facebook isn't looking to become Binance. They're looking to make a remittance product that they can use to move funds between their users on. Like, you can go on WhatsApp and go, hey bro, you owe me 20 euros, and you have your 20 euros. Or you can go on Instagram and go, wow, I really like that shirt, and use that money to buy that shirt. That's what they're looking to do. They're not looking to become Binance. They're looking to take over what essentially is payment gateways and remittance, for sure. I'm almost guaranteed, looking at their business model, then nothing else really makes sense. So about the Poloniex margin lenders losses. That's ridiculous. I mean, Poloniex should be ashamed. They should refund those. They should be the one that covers that. They allowed people to take margin and credit risk on a super illiquid asset, and they didn't set any parameters in place to mitigate the fact that when people had to liquidate in fast formation in an illiquid asset, that they'd have any chance of actually liquidating. So frown to Poloniex. They need to cover those losses, 100%. That's it. Ronnie, how are you? I'm good, thank you. How are you? Can you make an option that the order book pops out in a new pop-up from Danny? Yeah, well, you want to post that on Telegram, and then this way we can get it over into the feedback channel. We can add it into our feedback channel we do internally, and we can see if it makes it. I think, to be honest, but post it over there, please, so I may forget about it, and then I'm not going to post it over there. So please post it in Telegram. Somebody will direct you to the channel, because the limit order is still showing the bid-ask price in the buttons. Okay, Harold. All right, I guess how that makes sense. I guess when you select limit order, we could probably limit showing the prices. I guess that could probably be possible. Please post that in the channel as well on Telegram so that we can get it in the demo, the feedback channel. Yeah, showing the limit price would also be an option. Please post it in that feedback channel. That's actually not that bad now that I think about it, especially on limit orders. You're right, Harold. Thanks for clarifying that. Will it be able to lend XCM, and what will be the risk involved? Initially, no. And that's exactly the reason. The book is too thin for us, because if XCM were to have a sharp move, either up or down, you're putting lots of people at risk. And it's very difficult in an illiquid order book to liquidate positions, obviously. And then you're liquidating positions either by market making them internally, which also carries risk. So not initially, but once we see that the book is liquid enough, yes, but you'll probably be limited on the amount of capital, amount of XCM you can use in order to, as collateral, as the book grows. Yeah, Danny, it's great. It's actually a decent suggestion. So please get it in Telegram. If you don't know where the feedback channel is, ask in the main Telegram channel. Somebody give you the link. Please post it in there, and we'll have a debate about it and see if it comes into the next iteration. And I think it probably should make sense. From Reddit, from user Kickle, do you use secure, trustless, decentralized price data feeds? No. Rather, I guess not so simple question, but a simple answer to that one. No. there's not much of a reason to be honest, when the entire industry, financial industry at large, uses FIX, uses financial information exchange, which is not decentralized. It's not trustless per se. There is a bit almost of a consensus involved because you can aggregate prices from different sources to get a consensus on a true price and not use indicative pricing. But it works, it doesn't break, and every single regulated financial entity uses it. So there's no reason to go and have to sell them a different system that they may not use. I am Sujal on Reddit as well. Hi, Kevin. Can you disclose how? Oh, I already covered that one. How will your exchange token XCM be listed on? How or when? How come it's not already listed? 101. We applied to CoinMarketCap now, which somebody has the count here, 9, 10 weeks ago, 11 weeks ago, something like that. They got back to us roughly 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago now. We signed a contract roughly 3 weeks ago. We still haven't gotten listed. So it's in CoinMarketCap's court, basically. The ball's in their court. They have what they need. They said on Twitter that we didn't respond to some emails. That's actually not true. We went through every email they ever sent us. They were all responded the same day. Every question was answered. We signed the agreement after those questions were answered. And we've been in touch with them via Telegram. We've tried to contact them via Twitter. We've also emailed different representatives at CoinMarketCap that we were in touch with. No response so far. So we're waiting. Jackal 500. Hi, Kevin. Great stuff on Blocks TV, by the way. I won't take credit for this idea, but a couple of people on Telegram suggest CoinMetro should act as a link staker. So we talked about this. There is a piece of this could be a collective investment scheme. So I need to have our head of legal look over this. In my mind, I think it falls into collective investment scheme because basically we're staking everybody's deposits, then giving a percentage of that back to users. The more you stake, the more you have access to, the more you can make, meaning that you're actually making money based on the collective work of others, which is the exact definition of a collective investment scheme. And as well, to be honest, kind of could pull our own token, depending on how we paid those rewards, as a security. So we have to be a bit careful there. I think it's a great idea too. It's rather innovative. I like the whole idea of staking, period, but we need to do a little bit more research on that. We probably need to get an external legal opinion as well to get some fresh eyes on it. And I think we're going to start getting into that process over the next few weeks. But it's a good idea. It's a great idea, actually. Whoever takes credit for it. Maybe we should give it to Johnny Dixon so he feels happy that he got some credit. But yeah, I think it's a great selling point as well. But we have to see. We can't just do it because we want to do it. And thanks for saying our team. Yeah, our team. Thanks for supporting the team. I don't say it as often as I probably should either, but the team has been doing a great job. Obviously under some stress here or there, and really without them, obviously we wouldn't be here. It's not just me here sitting in this office all day. There's many other people that contribute more than I do on many occasions to the day-to-day efforts of CoinMetro. So hats off to all of them, and yeah, can't say nothing but thanks. So appreciate that. XCM was 5 cents last Friday. Weren't you going to paint your nails pink? Yeah, actually, we were discussing this. It was 5 cents, but during the AMA, it actually, I think, pulled back. Now it's actually close to 6 cents or above 6 cents. So I should have pink nails this week. I simply was on Blocks Live, and then right after Blocks Live, pretty much jumped into this, so I didn't have time. But next week, look for a surprise on the AMA. So just make sure you tune in next week. When are you going to start marketing this project? The part has been overlooked. Hasn't been overlooked, Doppelmonk. What are the next coins? How and many, and how many, and how and when will you send them to the bank? We expect to send another 3 to the bank probably by Monday. That's the target. And then hopefully another 3 that same week. And then once we get feedback there, I want to send a batch, a larger batch, 10 to 20. And it hasn't been overlooked. Marketing hasn't been overlooked. It's budget. That's it. So we've been doing a lot of marketing when it comes to organic content creation, when it comes to social media, when it comes to internal emails, et cetera, to our database. But for external marketing, we need a budget. So when the budget comes, we already have a plan. We plan to spend about 800,000 euro of that 5 million that we're raising. And that'll go into fruition as soon as the money starts to roll in. I myself will put in 6 to 7 figures in the marketing budget, hopefully by the end of June, if not into July, once I have some liquidity roll my way from other businesses I'm involved in, and we'll start rocking and rolling. Can you give me an update on liquidity pool? Has it already been used? Will you be informed when and if come to inject or take out millions of XCM in the market this way? Do you have any other plans? As far as liquidity pool, we started at 100 million. We roughly have I think 90 million still left. So we did sell some XCM, and we made that public when we were doing it. We haven't sold XCM now for weeks, if not more than a month now, maybe even going into months. I don't remember the last time it was actually sold, but yes, you know, in a 100% regulated market where the tokens are fully regulated, these things would be released usually post-sale in reports, and I think we're probably going to go down that route as well. But we've been, I think, transparent upfront on the fact that we were selling XCM basically to cover some bills. Hopefully, we don't have to do that in the future. Should we have to, it'll be made mention of. Milton Van Housen, hola amigo. Will CoinMetro enable link staking? So we already talked about links. A lot of people involved in link staking here. Again, great idea, but may run awry of regulators. So we need to do a little more research. LMAX is one of CoinMetro's liquidity providers. Why LMAX? I thought they only do Forex, only LMAX. So yes, LMAX is a liquidity provider on our exchange. They have, LMAX is a major FX provider, that's for sure, but they started pricing digital, physically delivered or deliverable crypto assets or digital assets at the beginning of the year, I think, more or less. And since we have a relationship with them through FX Pig, we've had a relationship for years, we decided to give them a shot. They mainly price majors, so they don't price, you know, altcoins or tokens, but they're very well capitalized and they're regulated. There really aren't any regulated crypto liquidity providers. There are very, very few. LMAX is one of them, and they're probably the biggest on the regulated side. So it just made sense. For deliverable crypto, it just made sense to go with a partner that we already know how they operate. I'm not saying they're the best. I'm not saying they're the worst. I'm not saying that there aren't alternatives, and I'm not saying that it's not saying anything in terms of LMAX. We've worked with them. We've had a good relationship with them. We decided to continue that relationship here at CoinMetro. Right now, LMAX is not the only market maker, but they're the only liquidity provider, but they're the only major connected liquidity provider. Aggregating right now in this space can be difficult because aggregation requires that you have full margin. Since you can't really trade on leverage with these, especially on the institutional level, that means we have to capitalize multiple accounts. And because we're a fundraise, we don't have the capital at hand to capitalize multiple accounts. So we do have relationships with other market makers that we can bring on and off as needed. And we are looking at some point here in the near future to possibly bring on another market maker that has a bit of a different way that they provide liquidity. But for right now, LMAX is the major liquidity provider that's inside of that pool. So no more Reddit questions, guys. We got through all of them. Cool. It's about, well, and actually it's 4 on the dot here locally. So we've come to an end here, I guess. If there's any more questions, guys, throw them out in the next 30 seconds or so. I'll give you guys, and I'll answer them. Are there incentives to hold XCM for long periods? Sure, there's incentives. There's discounts that can be applied for the amount of XCM you hold. We're going to be releasing more and more utility for XCM. That's going to be tied, again, as we release new services, guys, margin trading included, there will be additional utility, not only for holding tokens, but for buying tokens, for using tokens, etc. So every time we launch a service, you're going to see utility tie-in, because it is, at the end of the day, a utility token, and that's why it's there. So yes, there will be, there are currently reasons to hold XCM. There will be more and more reasons to hold XCM as we launch new services. As I said right now, major liquidity providers, not outside of just standard smaller market makers, no, LMAX is the only one that's currently pricing in terms of an actual liquidity provider. Bjorn asking us, Hansacoin is still going to do an IEO with CM. They were never planning to do an IEO with us or a hybrid model. Actually, they've been in a private sale now for some time. They're obviously doing roadshows. We were on a shared roadshow with them for a few stops. There is no plans to do an IEO at this point. That may change. Will we list them? Pieces of their, so some of their tokens that are tied into their infrastructure will be securities. Once we have an MTF license, we will be able and more than likely list those tokens. That's for sure. They do have a utility token, or a token that's utility in nature, and that we will look to list that token. Probably, hopefully, maybe sometimes during the summer. It all depends. It depends on the development on their side. It also depends on our side and how we get through the bank approval for these other assets. Danny, yes, that's correct. Basically, it'll be based on the amount of XCM you hold. That'll include voting rights for specific things. That'll include discounts. That's going to include access to certain features. Lots of different things will be based on that. And as we continually produce new services, you're going to see how that list of utility grows and grows over time, and the list of benefits tied to that utility. Okay, guys. Good AMA. We had a good amount of people join us today. Lots of great questions. Lots of great questions on Reddit. Lots of great questions here on YouTube. Well, we got David coming. What happened with your partnership with Digibyte? It's supposed to be one of the first coins listed. Yeah, there never was an official partnership. We simply had communication with them, with their community. We still do plan on listing Digibyte. Problem is that it doesn't look to us like it would be one of the easier ones to pass through the bank initially. So we wanted to kind of break the cherry, so to speak, with the bank, with assets that we thought would be easily passable through their compliance. And now that we have an idea what that compliance looks like, we can go back and take a look at Digibyte, which we will do. We will do them when we start to do these batch submissions. But Digibyte still planned to be listed as long as they're still following their initial utility-based roadmap for their token and their tokenization. How much funds have been raised? Off the top of my head, let's see, up to this point, roughly somewhere in the realm, I think, of somewhere between 500,000 and 700,000. Something like that. Roughly, we've been able to cover our expenses, which are more or less 100,000 euro a month since December, January, and it's been basically on a month-to-month basis. So you can kind of do the math. But yeah, anyway, it's a road. Sometimes it's a little bumpier than you'd like it to be, but fundraising. This is what fundraising is, guys. And when you see those big raises, like when you see big raises, whether they're seed rounds or round A or round B, that doesn't happen overnight. Round B round, C round, D round are always easier than seed round and A round. That's for sure. But these things take time, and I'm generally everything. I always wish things could move faster, but I'm generally happy with where we sit, and I think we're making good progress. Yeah, we could have a special meme board for XCM holders. That's actually something that we could do. Maybe even make them non-fungible memes. So we put them on a blockchain. What do you think? That'd be kind of cool. You could own a meme. If you have enough XCM holding it. You don't have to buy it. You would just own the meme as you hold the XCM. When you get rid of the XCM, you would lose the meme, something like that. Next coins. To be honest, we shouldn't really release the names of the next ones until they get approved, guys. So we don't want the community of those coins or somebody, I don't know, trying to talk to LHV or posting something somewhere that may get us into some issues with the bank. You're going to sell your Lambo. Okay, Danny, appreciate it. Let us know how the sale goes. Not even 1 million. Well, we're gaining in on 1 million, and eventually we're going to surpass it. Like I said, this is a numbers game, and that's just how it works. When you're fundraising for something that is yet to be, let's say, in profitability, having the fact that we launched the platforms makes it a bit easier. Having the fact that you're coming out of a crypto winter, so to speak, does definitely make it easier. But it's still fundraising for a relatively high-risk product, at least when seen through traditional eyes. So it takes time. But so what? All you need is one. All you need is one close to end it, right? You may have to do a lot of little closes up to that point, but eventually you get the close you need. Yeah, we talked about sections of the original sections. I think will be available to everyone, but I think post that there will be sections that will be added over time that will only be accessible to holders of XCM. So I don't know exactly what amount we're gonna dictate that needs to be held, but we'll see. Okay, guys. So I'll see you guys next week. I'll see you guys in Telegram. Please get those comments that about the platform into the demo, the feedback channel. If you don't know where the feedback channel is, go to our main channel at CoinMetro. Post it there. Somebody else will post it on your behalf or tell you where to post it. Thanks a lot. I think it was good. Lots of good questions. Lots of good interaction. See you guys next week. As I always say, have fun with friends and family this weekend. Don't think about price. Buy some XCM. And see you guys all next week. Thanks again for participating. It was great.